Hey everybody, what's up? It's Chase. Welcome to another episode of the Chase Jarvis Live Show here on Creative Live. You know this show, this is where I sit down with amazing humans and I do everything I can to unpack their brain with the goal of helping you live your dreams in career and hobby and in life. My guest today is so many things. He's the founder of a nonprofit. He's an author, a best-selling author. He's an actor, a director. He's a lot of things. You probably know him best as Dwight on that random comedy called The Office. My guest is the one and only Rainn Wilson.
Hey, man.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well.
Good old-fashioned handshake.
How about it? Like it was like the '60s there for a second.
Yes. Very good. Very nice to meet you
Good
on
day,
this,
sir. Yes.
on this video podcast.
Yes. Thank you very much for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We have a well. I hate to state the obvious is we talk before we get on the show, and I'm always saying, yo, God, right before the cameras are rolling, we talked about a bunch of interesting stuff. We're gonna take a nice arc to the show today. We're gonna cover a lot of ground, but first let's start from the start.
Yeah.
Go way back to small Rainn Wilson.
Okay.
What were your aspirations? Because I think we're very well aware of your success. You've had a lot of success. Personally, professionally, we'll talk about your faith. We'll talk about a lot of things in the show.
Sure.
But young Rainn Wilson, I don't know very many people who know a lot about young Rainn Wilson. Take us back.
Yeah. Well, so young Rainn Wilson, like going super young.
Yeah.
I talk about this in my book, The Bassoon King.
1995.
Something like it's probably like $3.95 in the remainder bin at this point. But,
No, that's a great book.
I talk about my. This is a true story. We have a family wall at home with like baby pictures and family pictures. I was the most hideous baby alive. So I'm gonna go way back to me being an infant.
Okay.
And I was a giant bloated white baby. It looked like a manatee took a shit. You know, it just was like a bald, pudgy, like unformed alien pupae. How do you say that?
Pupa.
Pupa, is that it?
I don't know what the plural of pupa is.
But A-E, pupae.
Yeah.
Pupae. Now watch your comment section is gonna fill up with people saying, actually, it's pronounced.
That's right.
So, yeah, and so you know, lots of good, lots of bad about growing up in Seattle, Washington.
Yes.
Your hometown, our hometown.
We are OGs, yeah.
Go OG, 70s Seattle.
71 birthright.
66. Oof. I remember being there in the first year of the Seahawks in the Kingdom.
R.I.P. Kingdom.
Yeah, R.I.P. Well, does anyone miss the Kingdom? Really?
Speaking of
what a
giant
monstrosity.
Cement blob.
Oh, there's a parking garage with a football field in it. It's terrible. I was a nerdy kid, growing up on the north side of Seattle, AKA the white side of Seattle. And my dad was a strange dude in that his day job was managing a sewer construction company. And his side gig was painting abstract oil paintings and writing science fiction books.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was very, very strange.
I think it's amazing that your dad had a side hustle in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
How cool is that? Like, the side hustle is the thing, right? That's one of the reasons that Creative Live exists, to help people pursue their passion.
That's right. He was the original, side hustle, only instead of driving an Uber, no, he was... he would get home, work was out at 5:30, a 25-minute drive to our house, 5:25, he'd come home, he would make himself a giant glass of V8 juice, and he'd put on an old flannel shirt covered in paint, and he'd get out his canvases.
Wow.
And he'd blast opera music, and he would just start painting giant abstract oil paintings.
Wow.
Or he would go in and on his little manual typewriter, he'd be finishing up whatever kind of weird fantasy or science fiction novel he was writing.
No, actual novels.
Yeah.
Did he publish any of these books?
He published one of them. It's called Tentacles of Dawn. It was not a bestseller, to say the least. And on the cover was a man punching a giant bat with a very buxom woman at his side. And
This significant. Now you have to read the book.
Yeah.
To find out the significance.
Yes,
of
on the cover it said they programmed him to save the world and propelled him into a nightmare future. Yeah. He's in the future and the sun has gone out and it's a dark earth and he's trying to save the world.
This is before zombie apocalypse was not even on the radar, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up with a lot of science fiction books. That was really, I had a lot of nerdy pursuits. So I played musical instruments, hence the bassoon king. I played the bassoon. And
that's an unusual, how did you choose to play the bassoon? Or was it given to you because you had a bunch of them lying around the house?
I did not have a bunch of bassoons lying around the house, but I got co-opted by my band teacher.
They're like, we need a bassoon. Who would do it?
What idiot would sign up to play this god-awful, weird adenoidal instrument? So I wanted to play the saxophone because the saxophones were so cool and they got to wear like sunglasses and like as they were playing riffs, they got to like do little
dance
moves
on tables,
together.
Like Ron Burgundy does and
jazz flute.
Oh, that's right.
So he convinced me that the bassoon would be a good idea. And also he let the class know on the first day I signed up to play the bassoon that, remember this is the 70s, but he said, the original name for the bassoon is the fagotti. So he was like, everyone, Rainn is playing the fagotti. So that went over really well in the 70s.
Yes.
In a lily white, kind of semi-racist, homophobic high school in North Seattle. So I got picked on a lot for that, as well as my other character aspects. But I was really into science fiction and stuff like that. And I guess, people ask me, how'd you get started with acting and whatnot? And, okay, you know what? There's a pretty terrific story if you kind of take a worldview. This is how the universe works in my mind. In my heart of hearts, Chase Jarvis, I just knew I wanted to be an actor. There wasn't anything special. When I would see actors on stage, I was like, I want to do that. When I would see funny guys on sitcoms and I watched Taxi or Cheers or Bob Newhart or any of those favorite shows from back in the day, I was like, I want to do that. I want to do what those guys are doing. Amazing that I actually got to live my dream.
Yeah.
But as I started pursuing acting as I got a little older, my dad was very weird about it. My dad was very supportive of me doing the arts, always, but he was a little strange about it. Now, what you should know is that my natural mom and my birth mother and my dad got a divorce when I was 2, and I went with my dad, not with her, and I really didn't get to know her again. Barely saw her until I was like 15 years old.
Wow.
So when I was 15, 16, I started acting again. And he was very just straight. He had this weird vibe, but I couldn't picture, he wasn't very supportive of it. And later on, I had a talk with my mom. I was in acting school in New York University, and I had a talk with my mom, and I was like, my natural mother, why did you guys get a divorce? And she goes, you mean your dad never told you? And I was like, no. And she goes, well, did you know that I used to be an actor? I was like, no. She goes, I used to do plays in Seattle in the late 60s, experimental theater.
Oh my God.
I did a experimental play where I was topless and painted my torso blue and like ran around on the stage and stuff. I was like, really? What? Wow.
So
weird.
That's why he was not supportive.
It gets better.
Oh.
The reason they actually got a divorce, she said, is she had an affair with the theater director.
Wow.
And left my dad for this theater director.
Wow.
So it all just kind of made sense. Like, first of all, I had no idea that she had been an actress, but I had this kind of like genetic kind of calling in that direction.
Fascinating.
Oddly enough.
Yeah, fascinating.
Weird. And then it explained my dad's situation too. So Did you
go back and talk to your dad and say, hey, you never told me what was up. Was that a sore point for you guys did you have to reconcile that?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a fair number of sore points over the years. That's not really been one of them, but did kind of talk to him about it. I mean, I would say the good thing about my dad is most people's parents in divorces badmouth the other person.
Yeah.
He never said a negative thing about her, ever. He never said that she had an affair. He never said that she left him. He never said, negative things about her.
That's huge.
Or anything like that. So, and she was flabbergasted that he hadn't told me and that he hadn't told me all this stuff. So that took a lot of integrity, I think, for him to do that.
Yeah. So you were raised in an environment where creativity was supported.
Yes.
Was it supported overtly? Like, yes, Rainn, you should go do this. Like, play the bassoon. There's a little bit of a hiccup there with the being on stage and acting. Yeah. We know why now. But is it fair to say that that was a path that was paved for you, or did you have to like, no, I don't want to go to school for economics. I want to be an artist.
Yeah. It wasn't like written that I was going to be an artist, but they were very supportive of an artistic path. So I was very lucky in that sense.
Yep.
I think it's really hard for aspiring artists, and I meet them all the time. I want to be creative. And the parents like, well, do that on the side.
Totally.
And what's your day job?
What's your steady,
Can you get your accounting degree? And then if you want to do photography at night, you can do that as a hobby. And it's really hard for especially teenagers to be getting that kind of messaging.
Yeah.
And it's just fear on the part of the parents. It's just fear.
As a parent yourself,
do
you share that fear? As you're thinking of Walter is your son's name? I believe?
Walter is 14. I have a lot of fears about Walter in this world.
Yeah. Is there a fear around him being an artist?
That's not where the fear lies for me
plenty
at
of
all.
other things to be afraid of when you have a 14-year-old boy.
Yeah, there's it's just like, oh my God, it's like
the
social
internet.
media and the internet and pornography and sex and drugs and alcohol and video game screen addiction. His friends are just obsessed with video games, and it's all they talk about, and it's the supreme motivator for him. So the carrot and the stick when raising a 14-year-old boy is it's very easy. It's a chimp could raise a child these days. It's like, you do good, you get some video games. You don't do good, you don't get video games. It's really that simple. So we have fears, but not around that. But I'm in a very privileged position. I've got some money. I've been on a TV show, so we don't have to worry about that, and I don't have to worry about him making the rent and all that stuff. Not that he's going to be like a trust fund kid, but in fact, that's a very interesting conversation.
Let's do it.
I know I'm doing like all the talking.
This is why you're here, because they've heard me for 150 episodes.
Okay.
This is their first time hearing you.
So
and seeing you. And I let's you just go wherever you need to go.
All right.
I'm in for the ride. Buckling up.
So I'm not trying to brag or anything, but obviously the viewers here, I have a little money because I was on a TV show, whatever. I've saved some money and whatnot. I'm not like filthy rich, but TV actors do all right. Okay.
Yes.
So
established.
No judgment, just not trying to brag, just like, it's just a fact. So dealing with this fact, and I have this teenage boy, been thinking a lot about like, how do I disperse money to this teenage boy? And it's a really interesting, complicated dialogue to unpack. Do you have any kids?
No kids, no plans for kids. I'm a funkle. I have a shirt that says "Fun Uncle," the funkle.
Yeah.
That's my role in life, is the
Okay.
funkle.
All right.
Active decision.
Will you be my son's fun uncle as well? Because he could use a few more.
Happy to do it.
All right. So
did you recorded that part, right? Okay, good.
Like, if I was like, it has, of course, we're going to pay for his college and educational needs, whatever. Okay, fine.
Sure.
But trust funds are kind of, I never had a trust fund, and that's kind of a scary landscape, because if I was in New York City in the early 90s trying to make it as an actor, trying to get an agent, trying to hustle jobs, trying to build my resume, trying to get experience, and my parents paid for my apartment or gave me $1,000 a month or gave me $2,000 a month or gave me $4,000 a month or whatever, or I had just this interest thing,
flow.
Like, it would have absolutely demotivated me.
Yeah.
And I never would have made it as an actor if I had had financial help, because the motivator for me was I had a fire under my ass to pay the next month's rent, because I was month to month, baby.
Yeah.
I was an actor for 9 years in New York City doing theater. I never made, as an actor, over $20,000 in a year for the first 9 years of my career.
Wow. Wow.
That is a stone cold Steve Austin fact.
Wow.
But if I had that money coming in, I don't know that I would have.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have done anything. I mean, maybe I would have. I like to think in some ways that I would have, but my motivation was like, make the next month's rent and build my resume and hustle and get that next job, so I don't have to wait tables and I don't have to be a guy with a moving van and I don't have to cater events, and I can just be an actor. And it gave me that drive and determination that is so important for creative types, the people that you serve.
For sure. And that's the thing, like trying to navigate, to me that's the most important and untalked about, not the most, but one of the most important and untalked about things is how do you survive, sustain what it is that you're trying to do, not get distracted, because if you want to achieve you don't just stumble into the life that you have right now. And I think a lot of people, whether they want to be on, a hit television show or write novels or whatever, I think it's understood enough, certainly from the arc of this show, that just doesn't happen. The amount of effort, like you're the 150th person who sat here and said 9 years, like I had to pound my head against the brick wall for 9 years in order to make it. So given that, why isn't there a support system to help people navigate? Like I personally, my segue was waiting tables.
Yeah.
I waited tables on the side because you don't have to work very long hours. You make pretty good money. It's highly flexible. So if I got a job as a photographer, I could say, get someone else to cover my shift.
Sure.
And it sounds like you didn't want to, so what was your bridge? Did you do odd jobs?
I had a friend who said recently that there's, the A job and the B job. So everyone's going for their A job. Maybe I had never heard this before.
No, this is
I'm
new.
An old fogey. So there's your A job, that's what you really want.
Okay.
And it's the B job that you're gonna do that's gonna enable you to get that A job.
I like it.
And that there's no shame in having that B job. Yeah. And a lot of people feel like if I get that B job, I will never get the A job. It's a false dichotomy in a way. But yes.
So for you, what was your B job?
Mainly, I waited tables as well. I got married and to my wife, and we asked for money, and maybe we got $3,000 or something, like grand total in wedding money. We were dirt broke, living out in Brooklyn, and I took $1,200 of that and I bought a van. And I was a man with a van. I had a moving service called the Transcendent Moving Company.
You were transcendent even then?
Even then, I had a kind of a mystical bent to my work. And I would, in New York City back then, I don't know what it's like these days. I didn't have any insurance, anything like that. I would put up flyers with tearaway little numbers in the laundromats and on the telephone poles in New York City. And people would call me, and I would charge $30 an hour to help them move whatever. And if it was two guys, it was $50 an hour, and I would just hire a friend. And I would line up. I didn't even have a cell phone. I had voicemail, but I would line up Saturday, I'd move someone from 9 to 1, and then someone from 2 to 6, and then Sunday this. And it was off the books. I didn't pay taxes on it. I should actually pay taxes on that money now that I'm saying this out loud in the podcast with hundreds of thousands of listeners. And it was great. It was so flexible, like you said. Yeah. It was super easy, and whenever I wanted to, I could go make $200-300.
Yeah.
And it worked out. It worked out great for me.
Feels like we need a world where we tell people that that's a thing and that it's okay and that that's the A and B job.
Yeah.
Why don't we let's cement that? All right. That's
put it on your big
to-do list.
Website, creative live.
Yeah. Done.
Bullshit.
Check.
Whatever that is.
We're gonna do it.
The other thing I always say to young artists, and it's hard these days, like in New York City, because basically the salaries are essentially the same, and the rents are 10 times what they used to be when I lived there.
Crazy.
I remember renting a room for $500 a month, so I could,
You can't get a parking space for $500 a month.
You really can't.
In Brooklyn, not even
But
alone
for
Manhattan.
theater actors, it's so tough. But I would always say to kids, keep your overhead low.
Yeah.
And I think that is a big mistake. And I think it's people make fun of millennials a lot for it. You know, the avocado toast. You know, that they're making minimum wage at Starbucks, but they'll go out and have the $12 avocado toast and their $6
It was
latte.
literally we're at the Ace in LA, and it was literally on the menu this morning. I was like, yeah, $12 for. I think it was 16 actually.
Yeah. It's so damn good.
It's so
How
good.
did avocado toast not exist up until like 2 years ago? I was just in the Whole Foods this morning, and they had one with like egg on it and like
It's a
cumin,
thing, for
and
sure.
like I was like, oh, that looks so delicious. But
Yeah, sorry,
but
you're
if
saying
you're making $8.50 an hour,
Yeah.
it's kind of a waste of your. You want to work for an hour and a half in order to have an avocado toast. So keeping your overhead low is a super important thing for artists and creative types to do. It will keep you hungry, it keep you lean, keep your costs down, and so you can focus everything on what your creative dream
How are
is.
you going to do that with Walter? Ooh,
There we go.
Someone dropped some dishes in the kitchen.
Yeah, you guys.
We're in downtown
this?
Los Angeles. This is all part of the texture of the show.
How am I going to do that with Walter? I have no idea.
There should be a class for that too, right?
You know, someone said, and it's very true, my friends are pregnant and they're taking their birthing class, you know, and you do these really intensive birthing classes when you have kids, like this is what's happening in the pregnancy, and when you go to the hospital, there's what to put in your to-go bag, and here's different options of how to have the kid and stuff. But you don't take the classes on the actual parenting.
Right.
So then you come home from the hospital, you got this little thing with legs and a penis and a pooper, and you're like, what the hell do I do with this thing?
I know how to carry it. I know how to swaddle it.
Yes.
But I know nothing else.
I know nothing else. But I know how it came out, and I know how all that pregnancy worked and the birth worked because I took those 3 months of classes on that. But I have no idea what to do
This
now.
is why I'm an uncle, right?
Yeah.
Exactly what you just described there.
Yeah.
So you got some work to do
So
to figure that out.
So as raising a teenage boy in today's environment is extremely challenging. My wife and I talk about it a lot. We consult, we read about it, and I don't know. It's it's a super interesting challenge. I don't know how people with multiple kids do it. By the way, we have one kid, one 14-year-old, and we're pretty flummoxed by it. There's people with 5 kids. I'm like, what?
Yeah, they're outnumbered. So obviously, you've already mentioned very clearly that you've been successful as an actor on hit show The Office. Dwight is a character. The character that you play in that show is so radically different, and it's called acting, right? So it's not really a surprise. But I just wondered if you could start to reconcile, because one of the things that I want to lead into here in the show is the work that you do with nonprofits. I've been a fan a long time. We have the Seattle connection. We probably know a handful of the same people. I love what you're doing with Lidé, with some of the nonprofits, with SoulPancake, and Dwight. Like, connect the dots for people. You are this comedian, and most of the comedians that I know, and I know enough, they don't have this really strong give back sense. There's not a lot of I see comedians and actors very focused on comedy and acting.
Yeah, it's very insular.
Yeah,
They have their little improv troupe, and they have their stand-up stages that go on, and their little cluster of friends.
You have done so much outside the industry, and to me that strikes me as the way I talk about it is we're all hyphens. There's so many different things. We used to just be an actor, or we used to be a writer, or we used to be an architect, and now we're many things. Is that what motivates you to be many things, or is there, I know faith is a part of it for you? Like, give me just a little bit of a...
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Create
Faith
a
has
narrative.
something to do with that. I'll mention a little bit about that. I'll mention that one of the things I'm super grateful for is that in my training as an actor at NYU graduate acting program, and in the directors that I worked with, and early on in my theater career, we were always spoken to as and treated as artists. So they always kind of drilled this into you, like, you're not just an actor, you're an artist. What does an artist do? Well, an artist ultimately, and all artists tell a story. All artists attempt to make something true and beautiful, whatever the medium. that artists are in charge of their creative faculty, and they have choice in the matter. There's often a feeling about actors like, oh, actors wait for the phone to ring, they audition, maybe they get a job, maybe they don't, and they just kind of go where the winds take them. So I was very fortunate to have some great teachers and mentors early on that kind of helped give me agency to kind of think of myself as a proactive actor in my career, that I was able to make these choices. And I was always, as an actor, yes, I would audition and try and get roles, and sometimes I'd get good ones, and sometimes I'd get bad ones, and sometimes I wouldn't get any roles for a year. But I was always trying to generate my own work, and I was always trying to work with people on things, and I was trying to, I would always teach as I was an actor. I would go into inner city schools in New York and do teaching. I would teach theater games and improvisation and clowning and comedy. And so I was very lucky to be trained to have kind of a broader view of myself than just an actor or just a comedy actor.
Yeah.
And it always is very surprising to me when I meet actors that have such a narrow sense of themselves and who they are. So that's part of it. When I grew up a member of the Baha'i faith.
From early.
From early, my parents were Baha'is.
Okay.
These strange bohemians, my dad working at the sewer company and painting abstract oil paintings and writing science fiction novels.
Amazing.
Was also a member of the Baha'i faith, as if things couldn't get any weirder. And it was, during the time in the late 60s and early 70s that a lot of kids these days really forget. It was a very fertile time for spirituality. People were exploring spirituality, Cat Stevens became a Muslim, and the Beatles went to India, and people were practicing meditation and yoga and reading the Bhagavad Gita and searching for some meaning and truth in their life beyond just the material at the time, and that saturated the arts during that time period. So my parents became Baha'is during that time. There's a lot of people became members of the Baha'i faith. At the same time, a lot of people became members of a lot of different, what I would say, like alternative religions, even though it's not really what it is. So in the Baha'i faith, so I grew up Baha'i, I left it for a long time.
Just teenage sort of journey, your own journey, and then come
exactly.
back to it.
When I was 20, 21, living in New York City, I just didn't want anything to do with religion anymore. I think it's a pretty common journey.
Yeah.
I didn't want the faith of my parents. I didn't know if there was a God. I didn't know if there was. I didn't want morality in my life. I didn't want to think about that
complicated,
stuff. Yeah,
right?
I wanted to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a bohemian and an artist. So I just jettisoned all that. And I really, I talk about this in my book a little bit. I went on a spiritual journey during that time. I was, I'll tell you, I became, I started living, I started making a living as an actor, mostly. I had a incredible...
$20,000 a year.
Making my $20,000 a year. But I was working, I was getting, that's beyond my wildest dreams. I mean, yes, my dad published one book and he painted these paintings, but I didn't know anyone that made any money as an artist.
Yeah.
So from suburban Seattle, it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
So it was pretty fantastic. But at the same time, I found myself to be really unhappy and unsatisfied in my life. So kind of in my late 20s, early 30s, I really went on a spiritual journey, kind of like trying to see, am I missing something here? Did I throw the baby out with the bathwater when I jettisoned all of religion and spirituality early on? And long story short, I came back to the faith of my childhood. I found great truth and beauty and meaning in the Baha'i faith. I believed that it was true. I had a kind of like personal kind of conversion, that act of faith. But one of the main teachings, one of the minor teachings of the Baha'i faith, but one that resonates with me is the idea that art is worship, that we can, people think of like worship. What do you think of worship? You think of getting on your knees or holding your hands like this and saying, oh God, you're so awesome, God, you're the best.
Give me a hand here, would you, bro?
Yeah, or help me out, exactly, or help me out, or saying certain prayers or songs or things that have been pre-written or whatever. And so there are these writings in the Baha'i faith about the making of art is the same as worship, that it's a divine act, it's a sacred act. And when you think about it, it's really profound, because let's just assume for a second, there's probably majority agnostic out there listening right now, probably a good quarter atheist. But let's not get into that whole debate right now. But let's just assume let's say there's some kind of creator force out there. Like, and what better way of worshiping this creator who had the ultimate blank canvas, the universe, and for 5 billion years ago had this little speck that became the Big Bang and became all these galaxies and molecules and elements and time and matter and energy. And what better kind of testament and ode to this creator than to take your own blank canvas and create something on it. Yep. That God is the creator, and then we as artists are the creator. Also, when you make stuff like art, it's a service, you know? I mean, I can't tell you the number of people that come up every week and are like, I love The Office so much. My sister was dying of cancer in the hospital. We would gather on her hospital bed. We would watch The Office, and we would laugh, and we would cry together. Thank you. And just people like, I was going through a divorce, and I would watch The Office with my kids, and it was so meaningful. Or it's, my family would bring together, like, it's just a silly comedy or whatever. I don't want to sound too pompous or self-important.
No. The art has, like, the goal of art is impact, right? And in comedy is to make people laugh.
Make people laugh, take their troubles away, touch their heart in a way. I think the reason The Office lasts so much is it has so much heart.
Yeah.
It's not just about getting those laughs. It's falling in love with these characters and characters connecting and failing to connect. And there's something really beautiful and universally human about those stories.
I didn't know that. So that's a tenet of the Baha'i faith, is that creativity is sort of an act of worship or reverence, because you're probably the closest thing that we could come to the creator.
The son of the founder of the Baha'i faith, the founder is named Baha'u'llah, and he lived in Iran, Persia in the mid-1800s. His son was, and that name means the glory of God, Baha'u'llah. His son was called Abdul Baha, and that title meant servant of glory. So Abdul Baha was a very wise man that Baha'is read a lot of his writings, and he actually came to America and toured around America in the early 20th century. But Abdul Baha said in a letter to a young artist, he said, I rejoice to hear that thou hast taken pains with thy art, for in this most wondrous age, art is synonymous with prayer. That is to say, when you put your paintbrush on the paper, it is as 'twere you were kneeling in the temple. It's the same act.
Wow.
So I love that. I love that idea. I love the idea of the ancient sacredness of the creation of art. Going back to the caveman days, to the artist as shaman, to those first cave paintings of little deer and elk and antelope and bear, and the human hand that's sketched on the wall of the cave. And how art and the sacred and the artistic has always been linked throughout human history. And for me, great art, witnessing it, experiencing it, is kind of the closest thing I get to a religious experience. When I see Radiohead live in concert, to me, that's more meaningful than any pilgrimage or going to any church or worship service.
Yeah, wow. So if, by extension then, do you attend, like, is art a big part of your day-to-day life? Like you mentioned, going to Radiohead is consuming art. Obviously, you've been creating art, written, music, theater, television. you're doing your part there, but is consuming it a part of your day-to-day as well?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I think these days we're lucky because there's so much great television, and television is
Oh, man,
incredible
it's been
work of
transformed.
art.
Yeah, it's been transformed.
Been watching this show on Netflix, Babylon Berlin. It's this German show during the Weimar Republic, and it's kind of an adventure-y show, but it's so beautifully done.
Yeah.
It's a really exquisite work of art. But yeah, I love contemporary art. I love going to museums. I listen to music all the time. I really love great music. And
I think the takeaway for me, and what I'll just try and frame it
Please.
for the folks at home, that this is a really common theme on the show, is that the folks that people draw inspiration from areas beyond their area of focus. So, you've been an actor since your teens. You talked about that. Plays on television, movies, etc. But you just talked about the breadth of expression that you try and tap into, and your inspiration across half a dozen different disciplines. That is a strong theme. People who are, and the same was true for me, photography. I was motivated and inspired by Warhol and Rauschenberg and the artists from the 60s, 70s, 80s in New York, because they were sort of reinventing the game of art while they were making it, taking art out of the streets. If you're Basquiat, out of the the streets and into the galleries, or if you're Warhol, out of the supermarket shelves and into museums with the Brillo boxes. I was really motivated by that, and I tried to do that in photography, and that's been a really consistent theme here. Is there any area besides acting that you feel like played the largest role in inspiring you as an actor? What, was it music specifically because, your bassoonism? Or was it?
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but I think I was such a nerd. I still have my science fiction and fantasy book collection from the 1970s,
Wow.
which is like 300 or 400 books that I all read before I was like 16 years old.
Asimov, Bradbury.
Oh yeah, all that
Okay.
Henlon and all the greats, and that's in the back of my mind. That's my kind of secret other
Got it.
profession. Is like I kind of can't wait to the point when I'm like, you know what, enough of this acting BS. I'm so tired of it. I'm pulling the plug on all this, and I just want to go hole up and write a bunch of really nerdy science fiction books and just have this other career and just not have to deal with people and just kind of live and just like my dad at his little typewriter and create those little worlds. So
Cool.
maybe someday that's where I'll be.
All right. I want to go to, this is about a biggest leap we'll make in the show today. Go from your faith to SoulPancake, which is a tech media company
Yep.
that you're a co-founder of.
Yeah.
But there's a thread there, right? Isn't that true that there's a thread? SoulPancake, that was one of the things when I feel like, was it 2010 maybe when that thing started? Something
Yes.
like
Yeah.
that, right around
Good.
there.
Good memory. Yep.
It came on the scene really quickly. It struck me a bunch of great videos. I remember videos with Kid President and videos with starring yourself, just asking the big questions in life and doing so in a playful way online, early YouTube stuff. So there's this media component to it, but I can still sense, especially now that we're unpacking your history, what's the thread there? Because it seemed, for maybe someone who didn't know, it was like, it's Dwight from The Office and he's got a tech company?
Yeah.
Help connect the thread there.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's how do I unpack that? It gets a little complicated. I think when we started founding SoulPancake, it started as a website. So it was kind of a tech company early on because we wanted to make it almost a social media type of portal for people to interact.
Yep.
There was content, but the content was backseat to people creating, their membership and interacting with each other on the site. It swiftly, that didn't really work.
Yep. Content worked though, didn't it?
The content worked, and especially the video content that we were making is what really took off. So we had a kind of come to Jesus moment, a come to Baha'u'llah moment. And we kind of sat around and we were like, okay, lots of this is not working. Some stuff is working. What do we do here? And we had one of those great tech pivot moments where it's like, we've got this website and we're getting a whopping 100,000 people a month coming to it. It's not enough to make any money off of. People are really engaged with it. But the video content that we make spikes.
Yeah.
People love it. They replay it. They buy the rights to it. They're playing it on their shows. Oprah wanted a bunch for her launch of her Oprah Winfrey Network. Like, we need to transition.
Yeah.
Seems to be where the need is. The need is for uplifting content.
Yeah.
For content that is rich and human and meaningful and challenging and deals with life's big questions and connection, and no one was doing it at that time. There wasn't an Upworthy. There weren't a lot of other A+, Ashton Kutcher's company. A lot of those ones weren't in existence at the time. We were kind of the...
Yeah, you were definitely seminal. That was very early.
It was, and so we kind of transitioned from, exploring life's big questions to making meaningful, uplifting content as almost a service. So we were a mission-driven company. So we were a for-profit company. We wanted to make money at this, but we had a mission and how do you say, a brand, to make uplifting, enriching content. And how does this connect to me? I guess as a Baha'i, Baha'is believe in doing service and giving back and trying to do good in the world. Lots of other religious faiths do, and a lot of atheists too do as well, by the way. So it's all good. Anyone that wants to make a positive difference in the world, amen. We could have made a lot more money just being a video production company and doing whatever the hell we wanted to do. But we really stuck to our mission and our brand about SoulPancake is uplifting, connecting, inspiring content. We make stuff that matters, what became our tagline ultimately. So it went from chew on life's big questions to we make stuff that matters. And this had to do with just me as a person. I had this opportunity. All of a sudden I was Dwight. Our show almost got canceled a whole bunch of times. And then we're halfway through our second season and all of a sudden we're a hit. And like, oh my God, I'm gonna be on this show for 6, 7, 8, 9 years. Wow. I know where this is the guy who was making $20,000 a year. Like all of a sudden, like I'm making more than that a week, And so I saw this opportunity. I have an opportunity to I have a name to do something positive in the world. How do I want to do that? Well, at the time, the web in 2009, 2010 was a really foul-smelling place. It's a much more interesting place now, still dangerous, but it was all like Kardashians and credit scores and fails and
credit scores.
It was just kind of the worst of humanity, just kind of pornification of the internet. And so I saw an opportunity to let's do something positive on the web. And it also came from my faith tradition, which teaches that the most important thing that we can do as human beings is explore the truth for ourselves. So that's one of the central teachings of the Baha'i faith is that it's called the individual investigation of truth, that we have an obligation, all of us, to try and find what is true in this short time that we're spinning around the sun,
Wow.
It always puts it in perspective whenever I hear someone share like, oh, you get X many breaths in your life, or you get X many heartbeats. I view it as like this body is on lease. I've leased my car, I'm 2.5 years into a 3-year lease. I'm gonna have to think about leasing another car. This body, I'm 52 years into a 96-year lease. I'm being optimistic.
Yes. I like
so what is that, what do I do, during that time, but search for what is true and meaningful in this world. So I wanted SoulPancake to be a portal for that, for young people to search for the truth. It has nothing to do with the Baha'i faith per se, and if you look at it, but inspired by that teaching of the individual investigation of truth. Can we put all our resources into finding what is true and what is beautiful in this life?
Extra pertinent today with the truth layer in there. But I like that it's an individual exploration, and this is really helpful because you can now look back at your career, and there's a lot of exploring with different media, or mediums, media and art. I think the tech thing, is that basically trying to scale this idea of search for truth, right?
Yep.
So, you get millions of people. I have seen videos all over the internet, especially early on. It was very inspiring to me. Like, oh my God, this is like positive content in a sea of not so positive stuff. It's an easy transition here. Let's talk about Lidé.
Yeah.
Because they seem, again, this is your thread now makes perfect sense to me, grounded in your faith, your journey is seeking truth and trying to provide avenues and vehicles for other people to do the same. I was very moved by the little video that you made with your wife about how you, I'll let you introduce it,
Yeah.
but in short, my intro would be that it's helping girls and women in rural Haiti express themselves and empowers them through arts and creativity. But
Yeah.
how'd that do?
Exactly right. So as I started getting well known for Dwight, another thing happened besides SoulPancake, which is I started getting approached by all these nonprofits like,
Hey, do a thing.
can we have some money? Will you be on our board? Will you do a fundraiser?
Make a video. Yeah.
Will you make a video for us? Will you travel with us? Will you, and that makes sense. So, but it was very like, oh shit, what the hell do I do? And so I started kind of researching the kind of work that I wanted to do. And I decided that education was for me, because I think education is key. I mean, anything you want to change, you can change through education. And in fact, it's usually better to change it through education. Like if you want clean water in the world, yeah, you can go build wells. It's great. You can go around and build wells. That's great. What about teaching people to build wells? What about educating them on
the virtues of clean water?
On the virtues of clean water, on health aspects of clean water, and how to get their own clean water, how to best utilize their water, how to not waste water, how to, how the science of water. You're going to have a way bigger impact with what you want to do.
Give a fish, teach it.
Exactly, and that goes across the board. So I joined the board of this foundation called the Mona Foundation that gives grants to schools all around the world. Seattle-based. Yeah. In fact, we're having a big thing in Seattle, May 30th. I hope you can come if you're in town. I'd love to have you there.
May 30th, I'll do it.
And
can I give some money?
It's a Rainn Wilson and friends. We're having Joel McHale's going to be there, and Chris Ballou from
I love
Presidents of the United States of America.
Oh yeah, Chris.
Yeah,
Chris
so
is making
Seattleites.
a song for my nephew.
Oh, nice.
Specifically, like with his name and the thing, and we bought that at an auction. Chris is a longtime friend. Okay, well, this is happening. This is happening.
That's at the Paramount Theater.
Amazing.
And we took a trip to Haiti because Mona Foundation supported about 4 or 5 schools in Haiti, and my wife and I just fell in love with the country, the culture, the beauty of it, the music, the art, the people, the language. It's like this strange little chunk of Africa, like cut off and just put in the middle of the Caribbean. It's a very different culture than any place else you go in the Caribbean. And of course, because it was the first free slave nation. So the slaves overthrew their French masters in 1804 and became the second independent republic in the Western Hemisphere, Haiti was. Boy, the people did not like that. They did not like the slaves having overthrown and created their own kind of powerful state. It was a very wealthy country back in the day, and so 2 months later was the earthquake. The hotel we were staying at, called the Montana, was obliterated, fell down the side of the hill. Everyone inside of it was killed.
Oh my God.
300,000 people died in a matter of minutes. And the devastation, as we all remember, was just off the charts, like nothing you've ever seen before. So my wife and I, again, were like, oh man, we really have to do something. So a couple weeks later, we found out about a group that was sponsored by the UN that was going to teach arts to adolescent girls in a tent city. There was the tent camp at JPHRO, which was Sean Penn's amazing charity in Haiti. And so we stayed in tents in the back of Sean Penn's house in his muddy yard. And we spent 2 weeks teaching drama, photography,
Wow.
creative writing to these teenage girls that were living in tents. And we saw the incredible positive effects that it had. It created community among the girls. It allowed them to find their voice. We weren't training them to be professional artists. We were training them, we were giving them inspiration. And
it's very powerful. That is like like I remember like these people need water and homes and roofs, and then as I watched the first 10 seconds of the video you made, you hit that head on. You're like, well, wait a minute, don't these girls need places to sleep and places? And I think you threw a story through one of the girls. She's like, no, what we need is hope. Yeah. And this creativity gives us this inspiration that is as important as some of these fundamentals.
Yeah.
It's
hope
so
is
powerful.
Maybe even more important than shoes. Hopefully we'd like to give them hope and shoes.
With shoes and water.
And water. But yeah, so it was an incredibly powerful experience. And together with this woman we worked with, an incredible woman, Dr. Catherine Adams, who's an educator, creative writer, psychologist. She's a professor. She was willing to leave literally her house on the beach in Malibu and move to Haiti to do the work. And we were like, okay, well, if she's willing to do that, then we've got to support this and we've got to make this happen. So we spent several years researching, consulting with other nonprofits. We have a number of, the nonprofit world is a crazy, crazy world. It is so difficult. There are so many landmines. There's so many mistakes. I really feel like there should be, maybe I need to write something about like how to navigate this nonprofit world, because it is cuckoo banana town.
Yeah.
And we learned a ton, and we work in rural Haiti because in Haiti, all the nonprofits work in Port-au-Prince.
Yeah.
Conveniently located by the airport with lots of 4-star restaurants. So we work at places so remote, most Haitians don't know where they are.
Wow.
We quickly added literacy because that's what all the girls and their parents said that they needed. Like these girls, you want to teach them photography? They don't know how to read, bro.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, yeah, I guess we better.
Let's go to first principle.
Yeah, let's slow things down. So we really want to serve the needs of the community. Then these girls were falling behind in school, so we added tutoring to it. They needed scholarships to school. Haiti has the most percentage of kids in private schools in the world.
Wow.
Because there are so few publicly funded schools that are functioning.
Yeah.
So they need scholarships, they need clothing, uniforms, books, materials. We provide that. We have a mobile computer lab. I was saying before the interview, most kids in Haiti, when they take a computer course, they get a little computer workbook, and it's all in pencil, and you fill in like short keyboard shortcuts. If you want to take a screenshot, hit Control-Alt-4, and like that's
written
and they
with
never
a pencil.
With a pencil, and they never touch a pencil that they have to provide. The school doesn't provide, so they never touch a computer. So we have these incredible footage of, and it's incredible when I get to go there, and these girls, their faces lighten up seeing a computer and just learning how to make a spreadsheet or how to make a Word document and how to use Google Translate or create a resume and how to connect it to the internet and whatnot. That's where miracles happen.
Yeah.
Because these girls are basically farm girls. They're basically subsistent farmers. Wow. That's what their families are. So we're trying to, and most of them are going to continue doing that, but they're going to teach their kids. Here's the thing. Why girls? People say, why girls, not boys? When you educate a girl, you're educating 25 people. Their kids, girls spread what they learn. Their sisters, their cousins, their moms, their community.
Wow.
But boys don't do that.
Obvious, yeah.
I always say, like, you educate a boy, he'll move into town and become an Uber driver. You educate a girl, she spreads it. So it's been an incredible experience. And basically what I do is I whore myself out as Dwight, and I do these Dwight
mugs and t-shirts
themed fundraisers with Dwight t-shirts and Dwight BS, and and I do online things and raffles and stuff like that. Last year I did a thing where we toured office sites in the Valley with a raffle winner, made a good chunk of money. And I just take all that money and shovel it over to some of the poorest people in the world. So it feels great to be able to give back in that way.
Amazing. Wow. I think that's I'm going to ask one more question to try and unpack this. What is that? Why you do what you do today? Is that your next focus? Is to give back, or do you have other acting aspirations? And if so, is there a personal component to that fulfillment, or is it all to try and empower and others? Is there a split, like all you, all them, some sort of a split? Because you're taking care of it.
It's interesting. I was listening to your podcast a bunch and just kind of preparing for this, and congratulations on it. It's a really, really terrific one. It really is one of the best ones out there.
Thank you.
I love the wide-ranging guests that you have and the way that you approach the topics that you approach. But
thank you.
Podcasts like yours and several others often posit the wrong question at the center of the dialogue. And the question is often for people, how can I be happy? How can I be successful? Or how can I be more happy and more successful? And I think that's completely understandable questions, but those are the wrong questions, because it's how can I find meaning and purpose? If I find meaning and purpose, I will be happy and I will be successful. So it's a shifting of perspective, I don't know that that's it. I wouldn't Rainn Wilson writes the book, Meaning and Purpose, or something like that. You know what I mean? Like I'm not Seth Godin or Brené Brown. I'm not like an expert in this stuff. But I do think you have to frame it in the right way, because if you're pursuing happiness, you're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
If you're pursuing connection, meaning, and tapping into your passion, you'll find happiness as a byproduct of that. Exactly, like you said. I know you've learned this in your many conversations. But I think young people have to kind of shift their perspective, shift their thinking. I was saying the other day that I read this incredible story about, in the late 70s, there were these best-selling albums on whale songs. Do you remember this at all?
I don't.
You might have been a little too young. It was literally a top 10 album, and it had whale songs, and literally like the kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that launched the whole ecological movement of Save the Whales. And all these whales were almost extinct at that point.
Wow.
And they've come back. Now, they might go extinct again with global warming and the acidification of the oceans or whatnot. But it was the songs that shifted people's perspective, that they said, oh, wow, these creatures are making beautiful music and communicating with each other across hundreds of miles. They're so special and they're so beautiful.
We have to save them.
We have to save them.
Yeah.
So it didn't come from like, hey, whales are dying, we got to save them. It came from art. It came from the beauty of their songs that ignited people to save the whales, which was got made fun of a lot, but it did a lot of good at the time. So shifting that perspective is super important. So, you're long-winded. I'm so long-winded today. I'm sorry.
I love it. The reason they're long-form podcasts is so that we can be long-winded. This is this is exact. It's perfect.
I'm a windbag.
No, the folks at home, they want to hear this.
So you ask what's up for me, what's next for me. If I want to focus on where my passion is, where meaning is, where connection is, then things unfold in a really natural way for me. For me, that has to do with God. It has to do with syncing my will with the kind of the will and the flow of the universe. I'm sorry to sound like a hippie.
No, that's amazing.
But that's how it works for me. Other people may not quite work that way, but I want to make myself a better person, because I've still got a lot of work to do on myself, and I want to try and make the world a better place and impact the world. I want to do both of those things, and that's a very Baha'i concept, to be working on both of those things at the same time. So what am I doing? I'm producing and directing some new projects. I've been writing some stuff. It looks like I'm going to be doing a new TV show, which I can't talk about yet because we're still negotiating.
Just a little early. God.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
If it happens, you'll be the first person I
Yes.
call.
Yes.
You can announce it. I'm starting to write another book, and we're trying to expand Lidé Haiti in some interesting new and cool ways. So, but again, it's following that path of kind of meaning, purpose, and connection, and then things seem to work out.
I'm grateful for the time. You're incredibly inspiring, and this whole windbag thing, don't, like, if I could handcuff you to the chair here and get you for another 90 minutes, I would. So grateful. People would kill me, though, if I didn't ask, what in the hell is going on with The Office? We see these teasers. And I know how passionate, like we already talked about the how much joy you've brought. However many seasons, 100 seasons, I don't know, 9 or 10.
9 seasons, 200 episodes. Yeah, like an Office reunion type of thing, you mean?
It's just...
Yeah, I mean, I'd be up for that. It gets very tricky, you know, it's... First
sure,
of all, it would all
everyone's
need to
going
come
in
through this guy named Greg Daniels, who is the founder of the American Office, and he's our fearless leader. He is one of the kindest, most brilliant, funniest, perceptive human beings on the planet. And we're all so loyal to Greg. So it's like, Greg, what do you want to do? We'll follow whatever Greg wants to do. And we're not going to do it without Greg. We need Greg, so it's up to Greg. So don't talk to me, talk to Greg.
I won't. I'll find Greg. Greg, you're on my... Greg, I'm coming for you.
I don't think Steve would do it.
Yeah.
Because I think Steve, really played out his term on The Office and is going in different directions and stuff like that. I don't think John would do it because
he's a warrior now, superhero.
Yeah, he's a superhero warrior and
the
A-list
video you
director.
made on your Instagram when you were talking like, God, just thinking about my cast and crew, and in the background was this video
John,
billboard.
Tom Clancy.
John in a Tom Clancy book.
That was great. And Jenna's on another TV show on ABC, so I mean she's contractually locked up over there. So
everyone's busy. I get it.
It'd be tricky, but maybe there would be an Office movie. That would be fun.
That was super fun.
Like a 2-hour like road trip Office movie. Like that's my pitch, or a Christmas series of episodes or something like that. We always do really well with Halloween and Christmas, so maybe something that an Office holiday special or something like that.
Would be so good.
I don't know what it means, but I'm game. Yeah. But I'm waiting for my phone to ring and it has not rung.
Okay,
so.
I'm tapping my fingers, Greg. I'm coming for you. Just because that was an important part of your career, it's so inspiring to see that base has created so much, that you've created so much from it. Books, music. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, man.
Super inspiring. I'll do the thing on the May 30th.
Great.
Sign me up. If you and Chris Ballou are in the same room, like I'm happy to do anything to be there. Thanks for being on the show. It means a lot.
Thanks so much. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you. Another 1960s handshake too.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello.
It was excellent. Signing off until next time. Appreciate you guys watching. Thanks a lot.